The more I use the Pixel Watch 3, the more I realised that this isn't just a little side project for Google, it's not just a sleek little notification display thing. This company is actually taking this incredibly seriously, specifically when it comes to fitness tracking. So let's not waste any more time and get on with it. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and not everyone wants a big, bulky, ultra-class smart device strapped to their wrist, but many still want half-decent fitness and GPS features and a battery that doesn't collapse halfway through a 10K run. And you know what? The Pixel Watch 3 is almost a sleeper in that regard. I have the bigger 45mm variant here, which is actually new to the series, and here it is compared with the 41mm predecessor, the Pixel Watch 2. So a nice little size jump for those who want a bigger watch, someone who has bigger wrists, but as you can see, mine are absolutely minute. I mean, seriously, I have some of the smallest wrists I've ever seen ever. You get two different length straps in the box, and I'm using the smaller one where I have one or two spare clicks before completely bottoming out on size. On that, just for a second though, I'm not the biggest fan of the proprietary hand or lug connector. It's a bit fiddly and the straps can be quite expensive first party. There are third party options available of varying quality. Try and get one with metal connectors or lugs though, because the plastic ones just seem to snap off and you really don't want your watch falling on the ground. There is no way you want to damage that new screen, by the way. Google's calling it an Actua display, and it's appreciably bigger than the smaller model from last year. It's LTPO, so it goes from 1 all the way to 60 Hz and up to 2000 nits as well. So by no means the brightest screen on a watch on the market, but noticeably and appreciably more viewable in harsh light than the predecessor, and that was one of the gripes we had with last year's model anyway. Google genuinely took its pretty good Pixel Watch 2 and leveled it up in this regard. There are some great watch faces included on the Watch 3, with my most frequently used really being the active one with the heart rate, the weather and step count all on that main display. I've also had the always on display turned on, auto brightness also enabled, as well as raised to wake. And that combination has given me around a day and a half on a charge on average every single time. That's with about an hour of fitness tracking per day, including GPS, checking notifications and the time quite a lot, 8 hours worth of sleep tracking and not much else. This is not going to replace a Garmin Fenix Solar in terms of longevity, but the minimum of a full day of usage for me is pretty decent. Without the workout, this is a 2-day watch for me, which is far more palatable in my opinion. I think I'd prefer it if it was always a 2-day watch, especially when you compare it with the likes of the OnePlus Watch 2 and 2R, just absolutely demolishing everything with battery life. But this is a step up from last year in my opinion, and maybe that's just the larger size, but I'll take it. And though I don't love the proprietary charger puck, its magnet does hold really nicely. It's nice and firm and it tops up in around an hour. Not amazing, but pretty decent. And I tend to do that just after I wake up when I'm having breakfast, having a shower, all in the morning, so that I still get that full sleep tracking in without having to take it off my wrist during the night. One thing to note though is that you'll want to take the battery life into consideration if you're an ultra runner or you go on huge hikes that take hours and hours to track. And the general consensus between me and my Android police colleagues is that it takes about an hour of GPS fitness tracking to equate to a drop of around 20% of battery life. So anything over 4 or 5 hours is going to be pretty tight, almost forcing you to opt for the likes of a Galaxy Watch Ultra or a Garmin Fenix Solar. Outside of that, the Watch 3 will last you more than long enough for casual fitness enjoyers. You know, stuff like quick walks with family and friends, maybe a 5K every couple of days, it's going to be fine for that. Speaking of, Google's fitness tracking this time around has taken, again, another step. Google is serious about this. This is the main area that Google is really showing us that it's not playing the fitness tracking in particular. I mean, that should come as no surprise given it is a Fitbit, but to briefly sum it up, this might be my new go-to recommendation for Android phone users who want a reliable and robust fitness tracking wearable and don't want to commit to an ultra smartwatch or a bespoke fitness watch. This is a good little in-between. Fitbit's phone companion software is incredibly intuitive and not only offers heaps of data on each activity you track, but it presents it and breaks it down in a way so that people who aren't VO2 max fanatics or who don't know what undulating periodization is still going to get an idea of what's going on here. I also wondered why my phone said Fitbit Premium at the top, even though I don't pay for Fitbit Premium. Well, it turns out that I actually kind of do. I have Google One 2TB of Google Drive storage, and part of that includes Fitbit Premium. This unlocks more functionality in the Fitbit app, and I'm not sure everyone really needs to have it, to be totally honest. The run tracking and the cycling tracking and all the health metrics generally are there. If you're much a fanatic about these kinds of things, you're going to want to opt for the $7.99 subscription. But outside of the absolute crazy fitness people who I'm not sure are even buying a Pixel Watch 3 in the first place, you really don't need that stuff. But what about the tracking itself? Well, this is one where I've had a bit of a mixed bag, but leaning towards the good for sure. The heart rate monitor in this watch is fantastic. Better than last year, just a really good setup. And it's within spitting distance of my Wahoo Ticker chest strap on my indoor bike. I tested it a couple of times, really isn't far off, something that is literally right next to my heart. So that is phenomenal. On my trail runs, once again, the heart rate tracker did phenomenally. It's exactly what I expected, and I usually use my Garmin Phoenix for that. It was very close, so no problem with heart rate tracking. But one area, depending on where you live, might be a deal breaker or might not, is Google's decision to include single band GPS instead of dual band. Now, when I was walking and running on the beach and on the moors, where it's nice and open, that was absolutely fine. But when I ran on my nearby trail that's basically just a tree tunnel, it's just trees everywhere, this thing struggled a little bit, and I noticed that on my easy runs for my half marathon training, no run is easy for me, let me tell you that. The Watch 3 would intermittently report my real-time pace, either massively accelerating or decelerating at times. This wasn't all the time, but it was enough to sort of throw me off. Thankfully, at this point, I can sort of pace myself, and I know for a fact I'm not going that slow or that fast. And it was rare that this happened, but it was enough to be a bit of an oddity for me. Again, this only really happens in sort of dense woodland from what I can work out, but if that's where you do all your training and you need it to be super accurate, then this might be a problem you run into. Pun not intended. Thought I'd add this in because it's hilarious, but on several occasions it picked up me racing in the simulator. It picked up the force feedback on the wheelbase and thought that I was mountain biking. It did that like 3 times in the review period, and I just thought I'd add it in because it's hilarious. There's not much to say regarding performance. It, just like last year, is very solid. Wear OS is intuitive and easy to navigate thanks to not only very good swipe-in gestures, and with the way that this watch is shaped, just phenomenal for swiping in and around the display. But of course that digital crown on the side as well, which is ideal for scrolling through menus where you want to see what's going on the screen and you don't want to cover that up with your finger. There are 2 main things that have me recommending this watch to people already. And those are the Fitbit software, which is fantastic for novices. It connects to Strava really easily, and when I integrated my account, it actually uploaded my backlog of activities before I'd connected it to Strava, so fantastic. The software is just very intuitive, it's easy to read. I think it's great for people just getting into stuff. And the second thing is, well, the form factor, the design. Its pebble-like shape and molded straps with the digital crown on the side make it a watch that some are just gonna love, honestly. It's the opposite of a Garmin or a Galaxy Watch Ultra or an Apple Watch Ultra, and since you can still get that smaller size as well, you don't have to go for the bigger model this time, it's a fantastic option for those who just want a dainty and sleek little timepiece. I know people who opted for previous generations of the Pixel Watch purely for the aesthetic and the form factor and the design, and that's totally valid because this doesn't look like a Galaxy Watch or a Garmin or even a traditional Fitbit. This is kind of in a class of its own. Is the Watch 3 ideal? No, it needs a subscription to unlock every single feature, which once you spend around $400 on your watch just isn't great in my opinion, and the single band GPS could be an issue for some. It's potentially an issue for me, but this is a wearable I wouldn't complain about using daily, and with its myriad improvements to the screen, the fitness tracking, the inclusion of the larger model this time around for people with bigger wrists, it's clear to me that Google is serious about its Pixel Watch line, and the 3rd generation gets my recommendation for just being a solid all-rounder. Let me know what you think of this wearable in the comments, guys. Are you a wearable kind of person? Do you not bother? Do you choose a traditional watch? And who still has a Moto 360 kicking around? Pretty sure I've got one in one of these drawers somewhere. While you're down there in the comments, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and of course, subscribe to never miss another upload. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.